Hello to dear listeners. Welcome to another episode of the sports section of the Savadestan Ask podcast series. I'm Arash Azarpay, proudly hosting you in this podcast series, and Mr. Mohammad Khorani is our guest, and one of the enthusiasts of sports field is with us. Well, today's topic is about a specific sport and another profitable sports industry. Yes, our topic today is about basketball and its history. So if you're interested in this sport and the events surrounding it, I suggest you stay tuned with Savadestan until the end of the podcast. Hello, Mohammad. Welcome.
Hello, Arash, and hello to all our dear listeners. I'm very happy to have the honor of speaking with you here.
You're welcome. We're also happy to have you with us. Well, Mohammad, where did the idea of creating basketball come from?
The birthplace of basketball is America. In fact, basketball, as we know it today, was founded and invented in the early fall of 1891 by a person named James Naismith. James Naismith was a Canadian physician who immigrated to the United States and became a citizen of that country. When Dr. Naismith taught at Springfield College, the university president asked him to invent a sport that students and young people who played sports like football and lacrosse could engage in during the winter season to maintain their physical fitness. This game was officially played on December 29, 1891, in Springfield, Massachusetts. It is worth noting that for centuries, various types of games and competitions resembling basketball have been common among residents of different regions of the Americas, especially in Central and South America. In Asia, this game became popular for the first time in China and then in India.
Well, how are the games similar to basketball played?
In Iran, there is a traditional and ancient game among horse riders called polo. In this game, two teams on horseback play in a wide field, trying to throw a ball with 6 rings, similar to a basket, on its body by throwing and passing it to their teammates across the field and through the basket and net mounted on a wooden column at the end of the field. This game is somewhat similar to basketball, but the resemblance to basketball is less than that of polo basketball. Polo, prevalent among civilized tribes in South and Central America, especially the Maya and Toltec tribes in the current region of Mexico, was played with a ball and fixed rings on a wide field.
Interesting. Why was the sport named basketball?
In the beginning, Dr. Naismith hung 2 peach baskets on the walls on either side of the university sports hall, each higher than the height of a tall person, and taught 2 groups of young athletes to pass the ball hand to hand and try to throw it into the basket. Meanwhile, the opposing team had to try to prevent this and take the ball away from the opponent's grasp. The first game that was arranged experimentally between 2 9-player teams at Springfield College, and the first basket in the history of basketball was thrown by a player named William Chills. Later, a person named Frank Mon named the sport basketball, considering that in English the basket is called basket and the ball is called ball.
What rules were set to prevent violence in this game?
Dr. Naismith, to prevent basketball from becoming violent, established detailed regulations for it, like some of the initial rules of basketball were as follows. For example, players were not allowed to snatch the ball from each other at any cost, or a player holding the ball was not allowed to walk or jump with the ball. Any physical movement, such as pushing, violence, and physical altercation, was not allowed. Only players who did not have the ball were allowed to run and position themselves anywhere on the court. The player with the ball must pass it to his teammates or attempt to shoot towards the opponent's team's basket.
How was the basketball basket initially?
Initially, the basket was closed at the bottom, and each time the ball fell into the basket, someone had to use a ladder or bring the ball out of the basket. In 1892, a person named Leo Allen improved the basketball basket, which until that day was made of wood or fibers and easily broke and wore out, using woven wire for greater strength.
When and where were the first official basketball competitions held?
The first official basketball game took place in 1896, where the University of Chicago defeated the University of Iowa 15-12. The first country to adopt basketball was Canada, and then it gradually entered other countries, including France in 1893, China and England in 1894, and Japan in 1900. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, this sport entered Iran in 1901 AD, equivalent to 1280 AH. However, the first signs of this sport in Iran were observed in 1931 and 1932, with foreign embassies staffed in Iran. The Iranian Basketball Federation was formed in 1945, and Iran's first presence in international fields was at the 1948 London Olympics.
What equipment is needed for a basketball game?
So about the clothing. The game outfit for both women and men consists of a top and shorts, with the team's name on the front of the outfit and the player's number written on the back and front. In international games, player numbers range from 4 to 15. Basketball players usually wear high-top shoes that provide more ankle protection. And about court. The basketball court is rectangular, measuring 1.80 meters in length and 1.05 meters in width. It is positioned at the upper space of the ground at both ends of the field, with a square measuring 59 centimeters by 49 centimeters inside it, and it should be placed at a distance of 120 centimeters from the baseline. The height of the basket from the floor for adults is 2.90 meters, and for juveniles, it ranges between 2.70 meters and 2.80 meters. About types of boards. Some types of boards are suspended from the ceiling of the hall using iron rods that can be lifted and connected to the hall ceiling when not in use. This type of board is electric. Another type of board is connected to the ground with a rod and is firmly secured. In another type, the board is placed on the ground with the help of a movable stand. And ring. The basketball ring is connected to the backboard at a distance of 30 centimeters from the board's base. The diameter of the basketball ring is 45 centimeters, and the height of the net attached to it, shaped like a basket, is 30 centimeters. And about the ball. In the first 2 years when basketball was invented, a football was used for the game. However, as this ball was light, the first specialized basketball was produced by a bicycle factory in 1894, which was slightly larger than the regular football. In 1937, another type of larger but lighter ball entered the market. And then in 1949, a ball was made in the same size and weight that is still in use today. The basketball is larger than regular balls and is made of leather, rubber, or plastic, and it is inflated before use. The air pressure inside the ball must be such that if dropped from a height of 1.8 meters, it should bounce less than 1.2 and more than 1.4 meters from the ground after hitting. The legal basketball circumference after inflation must be at least 75 centimeters and at most 78 centimeters. Additionally, the mass of the ball should not be less than 600 and not more than 650 grams. The basketball is the largest ball used in team sports.
Very excellent. Well, every sport has its own federation and specific authority, like FIFA for football. Now, As the last question, can you tell us about the Basketball Sports Federation?
The International Basketball Federation, known by its French acronym FIBA, which is Fédération Internationale de Basketball, is an association composed of national organizations that observe international basketball competition. FIBA defines the rules of basketball and the necessary equipment, organizes international competitions, regulates the transfer of athletes across countries, and controls international referees. 213 national federations are organized into 5 zones: Africa, Americas, Europe, Asia, and Oceania, since 1989. The International Basketball Federation is authorized to hold preliminary Olympic competitions for men and women and the Olympic basketball tournament by the International Olympic Committee, IOC. The Basketball World Cup is held every 4 years. Teams compete for the Naismith Trophy, named after James Naismith, the Canadian-American inventor of basketball. The structure of the competitions is similar to the FIFA World Cup in football. These competitions were held in the same years from 1970 to 2014. But since 2019, the Basketball World Cup has been held every 5 years, a year after the FIFA World Cup. The next hosts of the World Cup in 2023 will be 3 countries: Japan, Indonesia, and the Philippines. FIBA is responsible for controlling and managing international competitions. Under its authority, Iman Farzin is the first Iranian representative in FIBA and has been working as the executive director of the International Basketball Federation in Iran since 2017.
Thank you very much for your informative and comprehensive explanations, Mr. Khorani. I hope that listeners and basketball enthusiasts have gained enough knowledge. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm also happy to have been of service to you and our dear listeners here. Looking forward to next time.
Goodbye. Well, another part of our podcast in the Ask Us About Sports section about basketball with our dear guest, Mr. Mohammad Khorani, has come to an end here. I hope that by sharing this podcast, you will assist us in presenting our best work. We're still waiting for your comments and suggestions, dear listeners, on the social network of Savadestan Ask podcast. If there's a topic that you would like us to discuss, please share it with us. Stay tuned for our next diverse podcast. Until we meet again.